Mike McCormick standing tall in the soapbox. How you doing, man?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thanks,
Mike
Tom.
McCormick. McCormick Financial Advisors joins us this morning.
Thursday morning, 7
Yep.
o'clock. Great to be here. Dark outside, but warm.
Yeah,
So
not bad.
We're having a bit of a warm thing happening out there.
Yeah, we're going to get some snow every day this week till Saturday, I guess. So a little bit anyway, not
It would be
much.
nice, it started getting dirty out there.
Well, it puts you in the spirit.
Right.
It's the shopping spirit. Come on, get out there and spend some money,
We need that.
That's right. Hell, everybody's loaded with a
Do your part.
You got tax cuts. I mean, come on, you're loaded with dough.
Well, and we're going to have a Christmas like we always have.
Yeah.
We are going to purchase and consume, and that's what we do, and it's fun.
Yeah,
And hopefully everybody gets some really good gifts into the tree too.
that's true. Yeah.
We're putting our list.
Mike, Merry Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas, Shane. Good morning to you. I was just going to say, we're putting our lists, they're online. The girls have started this where they'll put a
You
list
put a
out.
list online.
Well, they'll share it with the Google Docs is what they'll do.
Oh, okay.
So in the
with
school-
relatives or friends or somebody.
I think it's just that nobody's writing
It's like
things
a wedding.
down.
It's like a wedding list or something you make.
They haven't figured out how to register yet.
Yeah.
But that's coming soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Well,
But
I
they'll
should.
put like hot links
Yeah.
to what they want. I want a skirt just like this one,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
it'll go straight to
It'll
and then
go
you
right
can click,
to
click,
everybody, huh?
click. Right, and you can click and be done shopping
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
I need tips on what to get the wife.
Yeah, that's the wrong show. You got
30
me on the wrong show here.
37 years, I don't know, like what 25 years is silver, and I think I don't know 37 years I think is insecticide. But
You know what my
I don't
wife
know.
said her favorite gift for me was recently? She said there was that one time when I handed her a stack of cash. She had a friend in town, and I said, "Don't come back until you spent this." Not just a gift card,
Yeah.
but like a pressure. You have to go spend this money.
Yeah.
She really liked that.
My wife was talking the other night about gifts that she really remembers that I gave her,
Mm-hmm.
and one was I took a bunch of dates, the
Edible kind.
edible dates,
Okay.
cut them in half and put walnuts in them and sugar on them, and gave her that, and that's one of the most remembered gifts
Wow.
that she shows you how simple our life is.
Well, and it's
It's
gift,
the thought that counts,
Exactly.
I guess.
It's that you had time.
I had the labor to do that.
Right.
Yeah.
and that doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, it didn't cost much. Yeah.
Well, right. It costs
Yeah.
the prunes and the candy, but that's a great tip in terms of
Yeah.
giving gifts this year. If you're on a budget, and we all should be on a budget, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, you can't let Christmas just go crazy. You can't.
you shouldn't.
You want to make everybody happy, around you, but a material thing that it makes you happy for maybe 2 weeks.
Give something that makes
Yeah.
people think that, warmly, and you were thinking like you did with time involved. I'm not here to give gift giving advice really. And the truth is that so many things are inexpensive these days. You can spend $20 and get a bajillion different things from the internet. So,
Oh, yeah.
And we were talking about this. This is a fact that inflation, we see it in housing, we see it in certain other areas, but mostly in things that we consume every day, we're not seeing it. And Christmas is a great example of that. I mean, you can get all sorts of plastic stuff for your family under the tree for the same price you did last year, clothes, etc.
Yeah.
So what do you do coming into, a season like this? You have to budget, of course. You have to be careful about paying off your credit card bills. I do want you to use your credit card. It's a great way to have fraud protection. It's a great way to have a track record of what you purchased.
Yeah.
And it's a great way that you can analyze your budget. And as we're coming to year end, we'll give a couple year end tax saving tips, but also budget tips for what you can be doing at the year end that's going to help you next year. Planning basically is what we're talking about.
From our text line, 478-8298, Jelly of the Month Club, the gift that keeps on giving. That's from Christmas Vacation, of course.
It is.
One of my favorite movies. Let's see. We had a question from yesterday that I held over for you today. What is inflation and why do we need it?
Inflation is simply the fact that it's going to cost more to do something tomorrow than it will today, and that stimulates economic activity. and
Mm-hmm.
and that's why it's good. Is that we want things. We want action now. We want velocity of money. We want your dollar bill to go to the local store, and the local store goes to the other local store to buy their things, and so on and so on. So $1 will cycle its way through this economy because everybody's incentivized to spend now as opposed to later. And, and if they're not, then that dollar stalls out and nobody gets to enjoy the benefit of it. We need inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And the Fed has done a great job of having a slow simmer on this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Not even a slow simmer. I mean, it's like in the warming oven.
Well, I was going to say the other thing we need is, inflation is about 2%. It's not a lot, although it doesn't count against fuel and food, which are commodities.
There's all these
They're commodities on the world market.
Confusing things, but they do a good job of measuring this over the long term. And over the long term, I used to say that long-term inflation was 3%.
Mm-hmm.
But this past decade,
it's been 2 or 2.5 or
even less than that this past decade.
Yeah.
So, where do we go from here? What's the reality of inflation going forward? It might be that we're going to be here for a while.
Well, the other thing too is that companies need they need a profit cushion so they can expand, they can buy new equipment, they can hire more people.
Hey, we all need a profit cushion, Tom.
Yes, we do. Let's take a phone call. 522 Talk is the number. Caller, thanks for waiting. You're on the air with Mike McCormick. What's up?
Well, this is Clint.
Hey.
Good morning, Clint.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, Shane and you, Mike and Tom. The fellow that called yesterday said that I talked against
the Electoral College.
Electoral College, and I did. And the reason being is this. In the beginning, Gary and Strong and Rutledge and Madison and Pinckney, a few of them had a lot of bad things that they thought who the electors should be and how they should be appointed. Should they be appointed by the legislature, the Senate, by the people itself? There was this is in the Anti-Federalist Papers now. And what it boils down to is Madison said the last word, basically, that he was worried about electors creating a cabal with it, which is not good between the electors. So my reason for saying that I didn't like the Electoral College is this. In the big cities, like New York and Los Angeles, where they have, I think in California, I think they have about 78 electors, I believe, in California. And when these electors come together, this was what Madison was worried about. Would they have some kind of a cabal to vote this way or that way? And that was my reason for saying I didn't like the Electoral College.
Mm-hmm.
But today, I don't know if that's happening or not. And I'm kind of torn between the Electoral College and the popular vote. The popular vote can be swayed also. Like the guy said yesterday, you can find in the voting ballots this error or that error and discount it. And that isn't good. So I want somebody to prove to me that there's no cabal or no infighting amongst the electors in these large cities. This kind of bothers me, and I think it should bother everybody.
Well, I think that was proved in the last election when everybody wanted the electors to go against President Trump, and virtually none of them did. I mean, they were locked into their vote, and because of the state, and they had no choice. So, that's
that part. You're right, Tom. But it happened.
Yeah. So.
And that's the reason why I'm glad that we do have the Electoral College.
Yeah, we're kind of off the topic here with Mike, but
yeah, I know.
I don't want to take up his time on this topic, but
okay, I'm going to sign off here in a second.
Okay, yeah, sure.
The thing is, things have gotten so far from the real meaning of our federal Constitution that it kind of makes me sick, and it does you, and I think Shane and probably Mike also. Our amendments are pretty much gone, our 10 amendments, a lot of them, a good portion of them have all been circumvented. And so, anyway,
All right.
I want people to think about all this here. And like I said, I'm kind of betwixt and between the electoral college and the popular vote.
All right. Thanks, Clint.
You betcha. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. We're getting back to we had the same person ask, what is inflation and why do we need it? I think we kind of covered that a little bit, I guess, that we, as you pointed out, we got to keep moving forward.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to be able to raise prices.
Yeah.
And one thing that I've talked a bit about in the show is that the feeling of wealth comes from some sort of growth in your own earnings.
Yeah.
A little bit before the growth and the cost of the things that you have occurs. So if you feel wealthy when you get a raise, but before everything got more expensive, so you needed that raise in order to do the same thing. So you have this little stimulus there.
Well, every time gas goes down a nickel or whatever it does, you get a raise and pay, sort of,
That's true.
from something like that.
And we did want to talk about oil in this trip because we're seeing oil not represent inflation right now. We're seeing a glutton supply. We're seeing OPEC having a slippery slope on being able to affect prices. Saudi Arabia is really taking it on the chin for that.
Yeah.
But we still see a sovereign wealth fund valued at $2 trillion. Shane, you saw that with Saudi Aramco, didn't you?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. We got to take a quick break here. We come back. I do want to talk about oil because one of our callers the other day wanted to know about how can you take oil out of the ground and sell it for less than it costs you to get it out of the ground. So you've been in oil and gas. Yeah, volume. Yeah, that's what you do. All right. We'll be right back with more with Tom and Shane and Mike McCormick right after this. Welcome back. We're talking with Mike McCormick, 19 minutes after the hour. Shane has a caller on the line. Let's go to the phones. 522-TALK is the number. Caller, you on the air with Mike McCormick. What's going on?
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mike. I have a question, and I was just speaking to Shane, and he sort of set me straight. But my question was, and is, doesn't the cost of living coincide with inflation rate? When wages go up, things go up.
Yep.
My question was, why does that have to happen? Why do people always have to make more money to buy the same product? Why can't it stay that people make the same amount of money and get the same product? I mean, people working at McDonald's making almost $15 an hour in some states. You know, and I mean, I'm not knocking them, but anybody can flip a burger.
True. And so, you know, on a global scale, again, the purpose from capitalistic theory of inflation is that you want to be incentivized for economic activity now as opposed to later. And you can think about this if you were on an island and there was 5 people with 5 different shops and there was $5 in the economy, it wouldn't work.
Yeah. Somebody would end up with the $5, and 4 people would end up with nothing.
And they would just sit on it, right?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is that you know, without inflation, without price, price raises or whatever you want to talk about, you wouldn't have cell phones, you wouldn't have big screen TVs, you wouldn't have cars with heated cup holders, and all of those things because the consumer didn't demand heated cup holders. That's something that somebody at GM or Ford or somebody said, hey, why not heated cup holders or heated seats or air conditioning or CD players or, internet access, you name it, I mean, that's where all these things come from. And they come from profit and research and development. And as, if you want to look at it, when in the 1990s, I sold TVs for Circuit City, and we sold a 35-inch TV for about $700. Now you get a 60-inch TV for $700.
Yeah, I mean, that's the advent. Sorry, go ahead, Colin.
I'd like to make one point about that, however. You're speaking back in the day. Well, back in the day, I remember putting a tool into my cigarette lighter and put it into my cup of coffee, and it would warm my coffee as I drove down the road. Now they're coming out with these fancy gadgets that you have in your car that the car automatically does it. So actually, nothing's really changed. Just the technology has gotten better, is what you're saying.
But there's a cost to it. There's a cost to that technology.
Yeah, right. The cost.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
exactly.
That's okay. Then now the employers are supposed to always be aware of the cost of living increase and compensate the employee for the cost of living. Correct?
Well, no, I don't think the employer has an obligation. I'll give you another example. When I was managing video stores in San Diego back in the 80s, we kept our employee costs at 15%. And, if I couldn't do that, I had to let somebody go, or if it was lower than that, then I could hire someone. But I wasn't under an obligation of every January to give everybody a raise in pay, unless.
So that was sort of like an award that the employer could do.
Right.
To his employee.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. If you want to. Now, there's a guy that owns the Container Store who says that an A employee is worth a B and C employee. That if you get somebody who is there really dedicated to the work and does it, then that employee can make up 1.5 of another employee or 2 employees.
Exactly. That's
but that's on the owner to make that make that environment for that employee.
Okay, I understand what you're saying, and that gives me some good information when I go up and talk to my boss about a raise, because I'm the only mechanic in the shop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I work for a big outfit, and I was asked to go to another store to work by myself because they couldn't get anybody to do the job. And I haven't seen a raise in about 5 years.
Yeah.
So that gives me some good info. Hey,
yeah.
You guys have a wonderful day. Thanks a lot, Mike.
Hey, thank you.
We'll talk to you later.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for the call. All right. Yeah, I would say that, if you haven't gotten a raise in 5 years and you're the only one, I think you got some
leverage.
You got some leverage there. If
leverage.
they can't find anybody else to work in the other store, then, maybe it's time for you to say, hey, I haven't gotten a raise in 5 years. I show up every day. I do this. I do that. I'm doing more than I did when I started. I've got the experience. That should be worth something. So.
And that is a great way to phrase that, Tom.
It really is, yeah.
You got to be honest.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to listen to your employer. When you ask them a question like that, you got to ask it in a way that says, I want to hear, what your thoughts are. I'm not coming to,
I'm not coming to demand it. I'm not going to, it's not my way or the highway, but let's have a discussion about my compensation.
And if you don't get an answer that you're comfortable with, you ask the person again, and then you say, maybe I should go shop and find out if somewhere else might value me more.
Yeah.
And then you could help educate your employer about that. Yeah. And just keep it positive.
Yeah. Or how many cars do we have coming in, and how many do I take care of a week, and how many did I take care of 2 years ago, and now I'm taking care of 4 times as many cars as I did 2 years ago. So what's the deal?
Well, product inflation can be a cost to the consumer and not their choice. The milk industry, perfect example, started out in glass containers, then cardboard and wax containers, and then they put the opening on the outside so you didn't have to open it up, and then they went to plastic and so forth. The fact is that those increased usages of different ways to provide the product become expensive on a manufacturing line that has to be replaced. Ergo, the price of the product goes up, and the consumer has no choice in it. In today's day, we should all want to go back to, cardboard, wax-covered milk containers.
We could do that, yeah. Yeah, they used to come in glass bottles with a nice stopper on the top. Yeah,
that's what they started with.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Let's see, Mike. Should I keep spending on my credit card more than my income as long as I can service the debt? I'll just outgrow it, or leave the debt to my kids. Pretty ignorant question, but what do you think?
Party on, Wayne.
Yeah, exactly right. If you haven't gotten a raise in 5 years or an illegal alien took your job, the problem is you, from our text line. Isn't Mike McCormick the one who is usually introduced by a voiceover artist? You're right. I forgot to do your intro.
That might be my compliance officer texting you saying, hey, we better get that disclaimer on there. Yeah, the disclaimer says no matter what you do after you do this, if you listen to this show, it's not our fault.
Maybe I should play it now.
Yeah, right. Well, we'll have another break.
Yeah, we'll do it at the bottom of the hour, and I'll put it in the beginning of when we do the recording of the show.
Yep.
So I'll just put it over there.
Hey, on the credit card thing, Tom, one of the great things about using a credit card also is that you can get your expenses itemized for you. You can call them up or go online, and they've got these great tools, and they'll say, hey, over 12 months, you spent this much money on auto care. You spent this much money on restaurants, this much money on travel, this much money on clothes. And I would love everybody just to have the awareness of that. Be judgment-free, but you've got this information. You say, oh, that's interesting. We end up spending a lot of money on going out to eat. How much do we spend? Well, we spend this much money. Well, wouldn't it be nice to have that money onto the travel budget? You know, things like this where you can just sort of be your own CFO. Use that credit card because they'll help you, like I said, with fraud. They'll help you with some levels of insurance and the transparency of budgeting. And you get points for it. Make sure that you're getting some sort of a reward back. There's lots of great cards out there. And most importantly, pay that balance off every single month. Every month.
There you go.
That's what you do.
All right, we're down at the bottom of the hour. The market's going to open here in about 30 seconds. Shane, if you want to give us a market update after the market opens, you're not? Okay, you won't then, all right?
Not going to take up Mike's time.
Okay, all right. Good deal. Well, I just made the offer, so. All right, Mike McCormick Financial Advisors is in the house, and we'll be back and talk about more.
Year-end tax tips for the small business owner.
All right.
Save money on taxes.
We got to do that. We'll be right back with tax tips for the small business owner right after this. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Preserving Your Wealth with Mike McCormick, where we talk about smart ways to invest and preserve your money. Mike is a registered investment advisor with McCormick Financial Advisors in Bozeman, Montana. As an independent fiduciary, Mike does not receive commissions from any of the products or investments mentioned on this program. Consult a professional before making any investment decision. You can find old shows archived at McCormickFinancialadvisors.com. Learn, participate, interact.
Welcome back. We are speaking with the aforementioned Mike McCormick. I want to be like Mike.
Well, now I can talk. Now that we got the disclaimer out of the way, that just simply says,
Thanks for the texter for pointing that out to me.
Exactly. We got our rhythm section
We got
going.
that in there.
All right, business owners. Everybody is 1 degree of separation or a business owner themselves. You're at the year end. There's a few things you can do that will put more money in your pocket. Now, nobody wants to pay taxes. You got a good accountant. Their main job is to delay any taxes that you might pay, and that's fundamentally the best move that you can do in terms of year-end tax planning. So make sure that you make your deductible contributions to your retirement accounts. If you don't have a retirement account, there is still time to set them up. The solo 401k is one of the best ones out there if you don't have any employees other than your family members. The solo 401k is lightweight. It's easy to administer. You can pile a ton of money away for yourself for the future. If you have a health savings account, if you have a high deductible healthcare plan, you should have a health savings account also. This is wonderful tax savings. There is also some credit available for Montana taxes. And if you have a high deductible health plan, you really have to have a lump of money saved to meet that deductible. That's the whole point. You have your financial house in order. So make those two contributions should absolutely be made no matter what, your retirement plan and your HSA. You can also do you might have losses in your portfolio. If you have taxable investments and you invested in oil and gas, you may have some losses. Surprisingly, there were areas of the economy that did not make money this year. There's not a lot. Pretty much everybody made money this year, but there's a few individual positions that were down. Sometimes you have a diversified portfolio, and that means not everything moves in the same direction. You might be able to save some money that way. Now, there's some people that say you should look at doing that you should convert your pre-tax money into post-tax money now. If you're at a low tax rate, you can do what's called a Roth conversion. This says, okay, I've got a bunch of money saved away for retirement, but I haven't paid any taxes on it. What if I paid some taxes now? Can I do that? Because I think I'm going to be at a different tax rate. Yes, it's one strategy. We've talked about it for a long time. I've never seen anybody really use it to good effect. It takes somebody that's really concerned about rising taxes in the future, and we're pretty much wired to just delay. Lastly, the best thing you can do is call up your accountant and say, hey, this is what happened this year. Did you get a divorce? Did you get married? Was there a big change? Did you move? Did you change jobs? These are big things that you need help from a professional. Say, hey, did you know that if you did this, then you could save money? So it's complicated stuff out there, and your accountant is your best friend with these things. Yeah,
I'd agree. I think we put ours in a Roth because, I like the idea of earning interest, and I don't have to pay taxes on it. You know, whatever I take out of it comes out tax-free. I don't have to take it out at 70.5 if I don't want to, which an IRA I'm going to have to.
You're going to have to
take a minimum
RMDs,
distribution.
right?
Yeah.
No, and don't miss your RMDs because the penalty on that is 50% of the amount you should have taken out.
Yeah,
that is ouch.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
So if you've got questions, if you take your RMD out, make sure that you get that stuff settled now. That's a big one.
Yeah, your required minimum dispersion.
Dispersion.
Yeah.
It does disperse.
Distribution.
What it is the
IRS, I guess.
IRS says, we're not going to wait around forever.
We're not going to wait for the money forever.
Right.
So
now there's an interesting law out there that may affect a lot of people out there because these RMDs that you have to take. Again, it's the IRS saying we're not going to let you keep this money away from us forever. We're going to force you to take some money out of your retirement accounts and get paid today. Well, even that amount that you have to pay is relatively low. It's about 1/30th is about the general rule of thumb. And so frequently people will not have depleted all of their retirement accounts by the time that they die. Yeah. And then their heirs will inherit the IRA.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah,
IRA.
You can pass the IRA, either a Roth or a conventional IRA, onto your heirs.
So here's money that you earned that you never paid taxes on. Now you're passing that account onto your heir. They also get to take out a version of retirement of RMDs. It's a different calculation. Yeah. But they also don't have to take it all out right away. And so the IRS, again, is delayed in getting their tax money back.
Yeah, so...
And
why not do it as long as you can keep it away from them?
So the term is stretch IRA. We come up with words for everything. But the idea is that you can use this as a way to do some legacy planning. You can set your kids up with an income source down the road that they might be able to defer and hold off on paying taxes to the IRS. Everybody likes that. Well, there's a bill out there that actually Trump's promoting that would change that. It would say on a beneficiary IRA, you have to take all the money out within 5 years. So if you inherit one from a parent, or a loved one. Yeah. And it used to be that you could continue taking out RMDs and sort of leaking it out slowly. Now they're going to say within 5 years, you got to cash it all in, which means
you pay the taxes on it.
Right. And
what if you roll it over into something else?
Well, a beneficiary IRA, you can't roll over. That's one of those things. You can't commingle it with other things. It's its own.
It stands by itself.
Right. Okay. Because you think about it, it's tied to someone else's Social Security number. And it's too much.
It's a mess.
So we'll keep an eye out on that proposal for you because that can sometimes change people's appetite for contributing to an IRA.
Sure.
If you're not relying on it for retirement income, if you've been using it as a tax deferred vehicle, if you don't have any heirs that you're particularly looking to pass more money on to, maybe that's not the right thing to do.
Yeah. Can be.
It's complicated.
All right. We got to take a quick break here. We'll be back in 2 minutes, so stay tuned.
And we'll talk about market direction.
That's a good idea.
Up or down.
Ooh, let's do that. Ooh. All right. Hang on. 15 minutes for the top of the hour. Mike McCormick, McCormick Financial Advisors is in the house. Shaman Tobin on the line. KF and Tom Eagleoff, your morning mayor. And market's just open. We're up 135 points to 28,000 again, so... What do you think, Mike?
It's just bubbling up. It's
impeachment's not hurting it. Tariffs don't seem to be hurting it. No. What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on is what you guys have been talking about, which is that jobs are good, wages are moving in the right direction, and inflation's not an issue. And so when you have a consumer that is feeling good and Christmas is happening, we have Woohoo!
Everybody's happy.
Party time. We're passing dollars back and forth.
Yeah.
And it's been a tricky year for stock pickers. Fortunately, most of the listeners are in, diversified portfolios, exchange traded fund sort of vehicles where you get a basket and you've participated. Now, recognize that we did have a terrifying Christmas Eve last year with a surprise sell-off, right?
Yeah.
Right. We had, and what happened is this meeting that we just had with the Fed was at a different time, and notes came out and said that they were looking at raising rates even more.
Yeah.
And this was just a year ago. And the market said, we don't want that.
Not doing that.
We're going to throw a tantrum.
Yeah.
And so they did. And when you incorporate that ride that we took into more of a 12-month perspective, the gains are not as outlandish because we're up 25% year to date.
Yeah.
That's pretty outlandish. That doesn't normally happen.
It's up 50% since election.
And the
number,
number,
Dow anyway, NASDAQ's up even more than that, I believe.
And this year in particular, we haven't had a lot of scares. Normally there's a 14% pullback every single year. That's statistically normal.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen that. So yes, there could be another surprise panic for sure. There will be another surprise panic. But in the long trend that we're seeing that it's going to be another good year for stocks next year. Most of the projections that I'm seeing, they're saying, despite election hysteria, which will take us, there will underlying be great reasons for growth. The technology advancements, artificial intelligence alone is driving industries that it goes throughout all sectors of the economy. This is one of those technologies where it affects everything.
Yeah.
So when you have one of those game-changing technologies in place, it might be more applicable in some industries right now, but they're developing it across the board. When you have advancements that's happening in biotech like we're having for healthcare, DNA sequencing, little widgets that are monitoring your health, the demand for improved healthcare is enormous. Think about your parents. They're going to spend all their money on staying alive. Why shouldn't they? And so that's going to result in economic growth. People are traveling. People are producing. Areas of the economy that I'm concerned about, fossil fuels. I am concerned about that. Demand seems to be outstripped by supply right now, and also behavior and policy overlaid on that might produce additional downward pressure on it. So follow what happened with Saudi Aramco. They said, we want to diversify away from the price of oil for our country's economy. They just came out with an IPO. They're going to start taking dollars. They're going to start doing other things like buying, I don't know.
And I was really surprised at the low price of it. It's about 10 or 13 bucks or something like that. I was expecting it to be quite a bit higher than that.
36.80.
Is that what it is now, Shane?
That's what it started out.
Okay, yeah.
And they only floated a tiny fraction of their net worth.
10%.
Right. Yeah. And so that's one way to affect price is to limit the supply.
But I thought they had a real opportunity to really jump on some cash there,
I think they know not to flood the market.
I guess.
Pun intended on that one, right? You don't flood it with oil. You don't flood it with cash.
Right.
That was never.
All right. We got to take another short break here. We'll be back in 92 minutes, actually. So stay tuned. Morning Soapbox with Tom and Shane. 10 minutes before the top of the hour. We're talking with Mike McCormick, McCormick Financial Advisors, and from our text line. And what would happen to the economy if all the consumers agreed to cap their borrowing at 4%?
Well, what would happen? If would mean that people are just not borrowing because at some point, that's not a reasonable deal for people to loan at that amount in some environments. And so there would be a lack of consumption. There would be an economic collapse. It would be if everybody just stopped borrowing, there'd be a big problem. Think about your house. It's probably your largest net worth source. If you wanted to access some of that without selling, you need to borrow.
Yeah.
That's why it works.
So what you're saying is debt is good.
Greed is good, according to Gecko.
That's right.
And debt,
greed works.
And debt certainly can be good. And debt ties in this whole theme of inflation. Basically, the idea that there is growth, there's future value, there's future productivity that you have the ability to tap into, your future earnings. It's a good bet. Betting on human capital is a great one.
Yeah. I would agree. From our text line, 478-8298, for years, Bozeman has been a very difficult place to find good employees, and
it really has been for a long time.
Well, we don't have, particularly in some areas like the mechanic we were talking about. I was telling you about the guy who owns the refrigeration and heating company that couldn't find somebody for $70,000 a year that he'll train, and
there's plenty of tech workers here.
I've heard that from more than one person.
Right, right. It has been, and it's because this is a lifestyle town, right? If you're a millennial and you're here probably because you want to ski.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'll work, but I got to ski, or I got to hike, or I got to hunt, or fish, or do something,
And an employer that won't give you, a flexible schedule or liberal time off. Right now you got to compete, and so for somebody that has a job that involves manual labor or getting in a crawl space, you're going to have to pay extra. You're going to have to look hard, and it can be a real challenge. It can stymie growth. It's one of the challenges out there for business owners to solve, and we are seeing some more migrant labor coming in. If you watch, how they're hanging sheetrock up in Yellowstone Club, it's not with local labor, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would think so. Oh man. Well, the other thing we wanted to talk about oil being so below cost. It costs you so much to get it out of the ground.
Well, so here's how I want to frame that, Tom, is that if you are making contributions to your retirement account, as I suggest, to save money on taxes, that means you need to invest that. And where do you invest today when we just had such a phenomenal year, when things just went up, 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 up? Things are expensive. I'm not that interested in investing in real estate in town right now, and I'm not, you got to plug your nose a little bit to buy stocks as well. So where's the opportunity? Typically, I'm a value shopper. Typically, I look for the unloved things and say, is there some real value to this that's been passed up? And you could easily point to the oil and gas sector as having a really good price to earnings ratio, really good valuations, price to book, dividend payers. There's a lot of value there. And does that mean that it's a good place to be investing right now? And that's where I'm sort of pumping the brakes on it. I think that there's probably better opportunity going international, going into some place like Europe, where you've got companies that have languished with good reason, but their valuations at least have not been inflated significantly, and they do pay solid dividends. So it might be that you should get risky on international. It's not because I'm betting against the USA. I'm not saying to sell out on the Trump 100, because they definitely still have more legs to go. But when you have extra money going in, the job is to say, okay, the easy money's been made. The strategy of growth is something to maybe not be as focused on. Now you want a bit more durability. You want to have a little bit of an opportunity to say, if there's a shock, it'd be nice to have something that could offset that.
Yeah.
And so, that's a lot of the work that we're doing in head scratching. Small companies, that's another place, and that's very tied with the Chinese tariffs. Small companies, lots of times, are highly impacted by these sort of agreements. And we're seeing news today that the market's going up on that says that Trump indicated that there is some significant progress on that deal.
Yeah. Well, that's usually the only thing that moves the market is that China deal.
Today, correct.
But overseas, a lot's going on over there. The British pound, volatile because they're having an election over there.
Yep.
France has said they're going to impose retaliatory tariffs on the United States. And India's inflation rate is at a 3-year high. So,
well, part of the reason why India's inflation rate is high is because they've had a lot of growth also. So, yes, I'm not saying this. That's why we diversify, right? And so going into the big European companies, they're globally diversified. So if you go into, Nestle or something like that, right, you're going to have opportunity to get a global reach and good management. So, I'm not saying we're going into small Italian companies that are going to be taking the ride over there.
Yeah. Well, we got to find out what's going on with Nestle, because my wife is a little concerned because they sold their ice cream.
Oh,
yesterday.
Yep, I saw that.
And she likes the dryers, a couple of dryers flavors. So she's wondering if what's going on with my ice cream.
I think she'll be fine.
I think she'll be fine, too.
She'll be fine. Yeah.
Should be no problem.
Right.
So.
Well, it's always nice getting the text calls coming in this time of year. It is stimulus and shopping time. So So just be cognizant of what you're putting out in terms of money and plan ahead. Like I said in the last show, when January comes, you're getting credit card bills coming in. You're also, as a small business owner, looking to maybe make a profit-sharing contribution for the previous year. So it's a good time to budget and forecast, meet with your CPA. If you've got questions, call your advisor, see what they can do for you.
Yeah. Here's something interesting from our text line, 478-8298. The city commission, one of the things they've talked about in affordable housing is for the employer to help the employee buy the house or whatever. And so our texter saying employee housing, hello. What do you? I don't see that the business owner has an obligation unless they want to.
This is where I am a bit of a free market capitalist, is that I don't think the business owner is obligated to do a damn thing.
Yeah.
I really don't. And it's up to the employee to decide if they want the deal that the business owner is offering. So if an employer is having a hard time finding employees, they need to sweeten the deal. If that means that they need to provide housing, then they need to provide housing. But it's not for, in my mind, it's not for any legislation to mandate that there should be. I'm not a believer in affordable housing. You know why, Tom? We have not heard of a community that has solved affordable housing, and they've been working on it a lot longer than we have, and we keep coming up with these commissions and meetings. Why aren't we just copying what somebody else did? Because there's no example of it having worked well in other areas.
Well, affordable housing is called mobile homes or renting.
or good transportation.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Going from a low-cost area to a high-cost area.
There's nothing that we can do that's going to make Bozeman an affordable place to live for people.
No.
So let's get over that. And let's look to solving other ways to address our problem.
Yep.
That's my 2 cents on that one.
And I'll agree wholeheartedly.
Right.
I don't know. Shane, you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. Mike, have a great day. Nice having you in the house.
Oh, Shane, I appreciate that. I know you have lots of good thoughts on things, so we'll convive on some of these things afterwards.
Well, we thank you, Mike, for coming in every Thursday to inform us on the markets and.
It's a clever listener base that we have out there, and it takes everybody's helping it to make the show great. Yeah. The best talk radio station out there, right?
That's what they tell me.
That is what
we'll see. We're the only talk radio station out there, so that
and also highly rated.
That makes it easy.
Yeah, right. Hey, thanks everybody. Have a wonderful week out there.
How they get a hold of you, Mike?
The telephone, no login needed. 522-3201.
All right. That'll wrap it up for Mike McCormick's segment here. Shane and I will be back with 5 things you need to know. And one of the great things that happened is the Ninth Circuit got 2 new judges from President Trump. So that's 4 of the 9, I think, that he's appointed, if my math is correct. And so we'll be back and talk about that. And, we got impeachment. We got everything going on. So
it is happening.
It's happening, man. So, all right. Thanks, Mike. And we'll be right back right after the news at the top of the hour. Fox News and Montana State News and me with the weather right after this.